What's going on, guys? Zuko here with a Last Epoch video. This is a game that I'm really excited about. I know it's not the games that I typically cover on the channel, but this is something I'm super excited about, and I just want to talk about some of the basic systems, give you guys an introduction to this game and some of the really cool systems in it if you've never played it before, because the release is coming soon. February 21st, this game is going to be coming out, and if you have no idea kind of what's going on, I'll explain it for you. So Last Epoch is an action RPG that's coming out. It's similar to, games like Diablo 4 and Path of Exile. So I'm going to talk today just about the crafting system that's in this game, and I'm going to do a quick overview of you guys who have no idea what's going on with crafting. If you're interested in Last Epoch and you want to play it, this is for you. It's a guide on how to handle crafting in the game at all points in the game, because it's very important to understand that you can be crafting basically at all points in this game. And I'm going to go through the whole thing right now. So we're going to do other videos on other topics later, but for now, this is what we're covering, and I want to dive right into it with you. So let's start out at the very beginning by saying, what is crafting in Last Epoch? What are you doing with crafting? Essentially, at all points in the game, you can take your items that you're picking up off the ground and you can craft them. And it goes into this little window here. I'm going to talk all about this in a minute. You're going to use materials that you pick up off the ground to craft items in the game and make them better for your build. Now, I'm actually going to unequip this unique right now because it's just kind of useless for what we're talking about. You can craft specific affixes on any piece of gear that you find. Okay? For example, I click this plus button and I can type in fire. And it says I can put fire damage on this thing, melee fire damage or fire damage. It's very different to something like Diablo 4, let's say, where you're just enchanting an item and you're like replacing one of the affixes that exists. In this game, you can craft exactly what you want on a piece of gear, on every piece of gear, actually. And you are going to need to do that to make your character powerful enough in the end game to be really, really strong. You're going to have to be crafting basically all the time. But what's really cool is that you have full agency over what you want to put on your gear, as long as you have the resources to actually craft onto the piece of gear. So those resources are these shards. This is very important. So you're going to get basic shards in the game that drop on the ground from enemies. So when you're out in the world, you're going to see this brown text here. Brown, tan, beige, whatever it is. These are crafting materials. When you click on them, you'll pick up all the crafting materials that are nearby. Just like that. It's very simple. They go into your inventory. Then you can hit this transfer crafting items button, and it'll send it right to your bank. So you can get it out of your inventory, which is fantastic. All of these different crafting materials here are going to do different things. Of course, added health, added melee damage. This is an acolyte-specific one. So you can get specific shards for specific classes. And we're not going to talk about all that today, but you can get that. It can add +1 to a skill, for example. This is level of wandering spirits for the acolyte. That's pretty insane. In the late game, that becomes pretty important. Armor, dexterity, void resistance. You see what I'm talking about. Those are the basic crafting building blocks that you're going to put on an item. That corresponds exactly to this window here, and I can add, poison resistance. As long as I have a poison, this is poison damage. For weapons, it's poison damage. As long as I have a poison damage shard, I can put it on this item, okay? The next thing you're going to want to understand is runes and glyphs. These essentially are support crafting materials. So the main crafting materials are these shards. The supporting cast is the runes and the glyphs, okay? Here's the interface that you've kind of got here. Here's my item, okay? I can use a rune to modify the outcome of the craft that I'm doing, okay? For example, there's damage over time here. I can click on this, and I can add a glyph of chaos. Sorry if I said runes a second ago. I'm talking about glyphs right now. Glyph of chaos will randomly change this affix into another affix, okay? Let's say I don't want damage over time on my hammer. I can press this button, and it will change it to something else. It went to void damage instead. Maybe that's good for me. Maybe it's not. That's the point is you have a random chance of getting something that you might want, okay? The glyph of hope is very, very good. This interacts with forging potential. We're going to talk about this for a second. This hammer only has 8 forging potential left on it. That's very bad. The higher the forging potential number, the better. Forging potential is how much you can actually craft, like how much like wiggle room you have to craft on an item. So this only has 8. If we look at some of the other items that I have on the floor here, let's look at these great swords. This sword has 16 forging potential. This one has 22. So it's random what appears on different items, okay? So you have to be mindful when you're looking at the items on the ground and be like, okay, this one has like 40 forging potential. This is a really good item that I might want to craft on this thing because it's got a lot of potential, okay? So, again, back to this glyph really quickly. We're on glyphs for a second. This glyph has a chance to consume no forging potential when you do this next craft. So, whenever you want to craft on an item, it's going to cost you forging potential. Let's put poison damage on this hammer. It tells me right away that this is going to cost me 1 to 14 forging potential, okay? So I only have 8 forging potential left. So it's probably going to consume most of my forging. Let's be real. Realistically speaking, it's going to consume most of my forging potential. So what we're going to do is put this glyph of hope on it and say, okay, we are hoping we have a 25% chance to not consume any forging potential, which would be fantastic. Let's see if we get it here. I have 8 right now. Let's see where this number goes to. Okay, it actually did it. You can see it right here in the bottom. That was incredibly lucky. 16% poison damage added, and my glyph of hope preserved my forging potential. Now I still have 8 forging potential. You might be like, well, Zuko, who cares? Well, now I can add a different affix onto this. Let's just put a suffix on here. How about chance to poison on hit? Now that I have poison damage, we're going to add that. We're going to keep the glyph of hope on it and see what happens. Ah, we didn't get it. We got unlucky. There goes all of our forging potential. This item is now done. We cannot craft on this item anymore, okay? It's absolutely done. It has 0 forging potential, okay? So we got some cool stats out of it. Maybe it's good for our build. Maybe it's not. Depends what you're doing. But I just want to show you how that kind of works, okay? This is the cool thing about this whole crafting system is that every item that drops on the ground has the potential to kind of be good, right? Here's one right here. 14% increased melee damage, health on hit. I might like these stats. I might not like them. It doesn't matter. I can craft on this item. I can add additional stats. I can change the stats that are already on the item if I'm not really in love with it. You might get an item that drops with like 3 out of the 4 stats are exactly what you want. But there's one stat that you really don't want. And so then you could use a glyph of chaos to try and get rid of it. Change it to something you do want. Maybe you'll go from an item that's 80% good to an item that's like 100% good. So almost every item that drops in the game has value because you can craft on it specifically, right? Which in other action RPGs, you can't do this kind of deterministic crafting. Last thing I'm going to talk about on the this thing here really quickly is the glyphs. These are another supporting mechanic that you have, supporting like crafting material. They do very, very specific things to the item. Rune of Shattering destroys an item, creating a number of affix shards containing its powers. This is very important. I'm going to get rid of this item. We're going to bring this mace back up that I was using. I tried crafting on this mace. I wasn't happy with it, okay? We tried and we used some resources, and you know what? We kind of bricked it. I actually didn't want void damage. I didn't want poison damage. It's bricked. I don't like this item anymore. Instead of it being a complete loss, a complete and total loss, I'm going to put a Rune of Shattering on this thing now, and it's going to shatter the item and give me back some of these shards that I spent on it. Let's do it right now. Poison damage, void damage. It's random which ones you're going to get, but you still get to recoup some of the loss, right? Because as I said earlier, the main way you pick up those crafting resources is by picking them up off the ground, but the secondary way that you can get these crafting resources is by essentially disenchanting items or shattering items and getting back the shards or some of the affixes that are on the item. I didn't even put any shards into this sword. I'm going to shatter it. It's going to give me health on melee hit. So there you go. That's the way that you're going to accumulate these crafting shards primarily is by shattering items and by picking them up off the ground. There's other runes that do really, really cool things. They're not really relevant for the beginner's guide, but you can see this re-rolls the values of all the affixes on an item within their tiers. So what that means is, let's say I craft melee damage on this. Again, you can search right here, melee fire damage. That's what I want to do with my build. I'm going to add this on. We're not going to use the Glyph of Hope because I don't want to use them all. There we go. It used -4 fortune potential. I got my melee fire damage, okay? Now I can look at this glyph, and I can look at the roll that I got. It's a range, so I got 10 melee fire damage. It could have rolled at 5 to 11. I got 10. That's a really, really good roll there. But if I got a really bad roll, I could use a Rune of Refinement to re-roll the affix within its tier to try and get something better, right? That's like min-maxing in the late game. It doesn't matter in the early game. Rune of Removal. This removes a random affix on an item, returning shards. So it's similar to the Glyph of Chaos, but the Glyph of Chaos, you can actually target something and change it into something else. This rune removes a random affix, so you can hope to get lucky. Maybe 3 out of the 4 affixes are really good, but there's one that's really bad and you want to remove it. You can hope to get lucky with a Glyph of or a Rune of Removal, sorry. But, you know, again, this is just something, you know, you'll have to figure it out as you go. Rune of Discovery adds a random tier 1 affixes to all empty slots on an item. Let's just try this for fun on this sword. So we have 2 slots here. It's going to add 3 random tier 1 affixes. So again, we'll just watch this here. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. It added 2 suffixes and a prefix, and it gave me attack speed, increased area for melee skills, and all attributes. Actually kind of nuts. Actually got pretty lucky there. But you can just see how you can use these things. You don't want to use them as like willy-nilly as I'm using them right now. I'm just giving you examples of what they do in the crafting window so you can understand how to do this stuff, okay? There's some big ones. Rerolls all implicits on an item. Implicits are, of course, the base at the top there. The 30 melee damage, that's my implicit. Okay, implicits are the things that are just naturally on the item. And then you've got Rune of Ascendance. This changes an item into a legendary. You want to use these very, very carefully later in the late game, okay? So those are runes. Those are glyphs. There's different glyphs that do different things. You're going to be using these to modify the outcome of the crafting that you're doing with the shards that you pick up. Again, all these shards are right here, and you can watch if I hit transfer. They all go into my bank. This is where all your materials are. You can see there's tons of materials, guys. One thing I want to just sort of caveat into here is that you should always be crafting in this game. That's my next point. Look at all the materials that I have here. You're going to accumulate tons of materials over the course of your time running around in Last Epoch, and you should be crafting even in the early game, okay? So, for example, I have a ruby amulet here. This is very early on. My character's only level 10. There is another amulet on the ground here called a brass amulet. That's not what I want. How about a jade amulet? That looks way better for me, okay? Here's a jade amulet. This has increased attack speed. It has throwing attack speed, which I don't care about, but it has increased attack speed. What you want to be doing with this crafting window in the early game, in the mid game, in the late game, at all points in the game, you want to figure out what your build is going to be, figure out what you want to play for your build, and then start crafting items to buff the build that you're going for. So right now, this is really early on, but I like Warpath. This is my spin to win guy. I really like it, and I want my Warpath to set everything on fire. I want to be a big fire Warpath machine. I'm probably going to spec into the Forge Guard because he's got a bunch of fire stuff as well. You know, just for fun. I don't really know. I'm just making this up, right? But you can do this, and you can essentially start to be like, okay, I understand where I want to go with this build. I'm going to be getting as many nodes that are related to fire damage as possible. There's one there. There's another one there. I like what I see here. This is pretty good. Look at the Sentinel one. We can type in fire. There's not much here right away, but we can oh, the Paladin one. Maybe we do the Paladin one. He's got a lot of fire damage as well. But I know my main skill is going to be Warpath, and I'm going to be setting things on fire. Great. Now I know that. Let's go to the crafting window. Every time I get an item, I can start making sure that I'm adding fire damage to it. There we go. Fire damage. I can add that right there. Get rid of this glyph. Let's clear that. Let's add some fire damage. We've already got melee attack speed. Maybe we get something else to do with melee. Just type in melee. It'll show you what shards you have. You do not have any shards that match the current search. Okay, so now I realize I'm a little bit low on shards, which you probably will be when you first start your character. That's okay. You just keep collecting them as you go. Let's see what I can put. It says available to be applied right here. Poison resistance, fire resistance, nah. Cold damage, no. Let's just type in damage. Let's see what I can get for damage. Elemental damage is maybe okay. Necrotic physical damage, that's actually probably pretty good. You can see Warpath here. has fire, melee, area, channeled, movement, strength. Oh, this has strength on it. This has strength scaling, this Warpath skill. Maybe I should just go ahead and add strength. Do I have strength? Am I spelling it right? Sure, I don't have any strength. Unlucky. That's okay. I don't have attributes either. Okay, so we're going to go back. We're going to just add elemental damage just for fun. Or, where is it? Elemental resistance, resistance, health. I know we want prefixes. Elemental damage, let's just add that. Boom, there we go. Oh, we got a critical success. Here's another thing that happens with crafting. Occasionally, you're going to get what's called a critical success. In the bottom here, you can see below the upgrade affix, it says, we got our elemental damage that we were trying to get. Good job. And we got a critical success. It preserved the forging potential and the crafting materials. It was completely free. We just upgraded this thing for completely free, which is pretty awesome. Okay? That's awesome. That's what we want to be doing. Now, one of the last things I want to talk about here for crafting is that there are prefixes and suffixes. And you might be asking, like, how do I know what to put? Okay. Prefixes are going to be your offensive, your damage abilities, the really powerful, the most powerful stuff you can put on the item realistically is going to be the prefixes, okay? This is like your fire damage, your melee damage, your spell damage, your plus to skills. I don't even know if I have one, but let's just look really quickly. No, we can't do it now. I'm going to look, that doesn't have anything either. Check this ring really quickly if I have a plus to skills. Oh my god, what are we doing? Let's add this. We can go skill. I don't have any, unfortunately. Unlucky. That's okay. But you can get really, really powerful upgrades to even, you know, important skills. And you're going to want to do that later on in the game. But for now, these are the most important affixes. These are the things that are like your big, heavy-hitting things. The suffixes are defensive in nature, okay? So you can see, look at suffixes. You got cold resist, dodge rating, health, your lightning res. These are very important, especially in the late game when you need to be capping your resistances. Very, very important. Also, chances to ignite, chance to shock, dodge, health regen, chance to shred, apply frailty. There are some really cool things here, physical resistance, but generally speaking, you're looking at defensive stuff over here. So let's add physical resistance just for fun. Let's glyph it. Hopefully we only have 11 forging potential left. Okay, it only cost us 1. That was really lucky. Now, you can say, okay, I've got a couple affixes on here. I want to keep upgrading the powerful ones. I want more fire damage. Let's keep upgrading this thing. We do have a glyph left. Let's see if it gets lucky. Oh, yeah, I got unlucky there. Let's upgrade our elemental damage. We have 3. Oh, we can't. Requires level 12. That's okay. Let's add one more affix to this. Let's go fire resistance. We can still do that. Boom. Okay, this has no forging potential left, but we took an amulet that only gave us a little bit of melee attack speed, and we added all of this stuff onto it. Look how powerful this is now. Look at how strong this is now compared to what we were wearing. We picked up this amulet off the ground, and we've turned it into a rare amulet with fire damage, LE damage, fizz resistance. Let's look at our Warpath. Warpath does 137 damage. Now it's doing 161. So this is the amount of impact that you can have on your gameplay by crafting in this game in the early stages. It is so incredibly powerful. You can take items that are white or that are blue or whatever, and you can just add a bunch of really, really incredible mods to them that are going to buff your damage substantially. You can see fire damage. I can put this back on this now. Let's look at anything with melee. Nope, can't do that. What about strength? I can put strength on this one. There we go. We've got that. Let's get a little bit of health. What can we do for suffixes? Let's just do some cold resist. And then let's actually just buff the fire damage. Let's keep going. Let's do strength. Can't buff it anymore. We'll add one more. Let's get some health on there. We can't. We need to be level 11. Okay, fair enough. So we have to wait a little bit. We took a white ring, and we made it rare, and we added more fire damage, which is going to buff our Warpath again. There we go. So if you have an idea of what you're going to be doing with your build fairly early on, you can be crafting all of your gear to help support what is going on, so that when you get into, like, as you're getting into the mid game, as you're continuing to level up, your damage never goes down. You're just continuing to do more and more and more damage because you've crafted your gear to do that. This is something that I think Last Epoch has that so many other action RPGs do not have. This deterministic crafting system that lets you take control of your gear. And it also means that anything that drops on the ground could potentially be really good for you. It might be bad, but it could be good. This thing here has 21 4G potential, but it has minion health and regen. It's not really that good. I'm not even going to worry about it. This sword that I'm wearing, it already has fire damage on it. This is some of the most important stuff that you want to be crafting in the early game. I'm going to upgrade this melee fire damage and see what happens. I don't have any more glyphs, so we're just going to have to try and get lucky here. 23 4G potential, down to 18. There we go. We took it up to T3, it looks like. T3 fire. Okay, very, very good. And then melee cold damage. I don't actually care about this. Let's try and get rid of it. Oh, I can't need to be level 12. That's fine. We already upgraded our weapon. Again, we're doing more damage than we were. We took our warpath damage from like 160-something to 240-something just by crafting in this one session today. That's how powerful this can be in the early game and even into the mid game. So that's what I wanted to talk about for crafting. I'm going to finish off by talking about some of the late game crafting and some of the stuff that happens there. Let me switch over to a more late game character for that. So crafting in the late game is essentially what you're doing in the early game, but on a bigger and better scale. So in the late game, you're going to start encountering these items called exalted items. These are the purple items that drop on the ground. They contain an affix that is going to be tier 6, which is drop only. You can see it there, the purple 22% movement speed. It says a tier 6 drop only. They only will drop out in the open world, and they have a tier 6 affix, which is higher than any crafting can possibly go. Max craftable is tier 5. So these items are very well sought after. They have incredibly powerful effects, and you're going to want to look for certain items that have the affixes like this. 25% increased max health is really, really good. Crit avoidance is another good one. Maximum damage to whatever element you happen to be using for your build is also very good. This is like a lightning guy that I've got going. So 90% more lightning damage is incredibly good. When you're crafting in the late game, you're wanting to find exalted items, and you're going to want to craft on them, make them as best as they can possibly be so that your build gets really, really strong. Another part of the game that gets really interesting is when unique items have legendary potential. So if we look at this amulet right here, it's called Bleeding Heart. This has legendary potential. You can see at the top there. Underneath, it's implicit. What that means is you can craft with this amulet. You can normally never craft with unique items, but there is one specific way that you can do it, and that is inside of this dungeon called the Temporal Sanctum. What you basically do is you run this dungeon, you get to the very end, you fight a boss, you kill them, and then you get access to the Eternity Cache is what it's called. And the Eternity Cache is going to allow you to combine a unique item that has legendary potential with an exalted item that has that extra tier 6 affix. You smash them together, and you're going to create what's called a legendary item. That's what legendaries are in Last Epoch. You cannot smash together an amulet and a neck and a chest piece. I shouldn't have shown you that. You can only smash together items that are of the same type. So a weapon and a weapon, a chest piece, belt, all that kind of stuff, right? What you're going to want to do in the late game, though, to make your build incredibly strong is you're going to want to make about as many of these legendary items as possible. So you have to find a unique that has the different stats that you actually want for your gear, for your build, I'm sorry. So something like this for me, the Unsenni's Sphere, this gives me lightning resistance, cold resistance, but it gives me lightning damage, which is really good. 30% cold and lightning damage for each water orb that I've cast in the last couple seconds. I could take this, it has one legendary potential, and I could put it together with another relic that is a exalted relic, smash them together, and make a really, really cool legendary item. This is what it kind of looks like. This is on the Max Roll website. I'm just going to show you this really quickly. So they do a really good workup on this. Here's an example of what this ends up looking like. So the legendary items have this really cool crimson red sort of color to them. And you can see that these boots, they took the vitality and the physical resistance from an exalted pair of boots. We can't see them here, but that's what happened. This was a unique item. It did not have vitality or physical resistance on it. It took those affixes from the exalted item that it smashed together with. Now, if you're wondering how do we get like a bunch of affixes onto our gear, that depends how much legendary potential is on the item. All uniques in the game can drop with a certain amount of legendary potential. The more you have, if you have 2 or 3, let's say you have 2 legendary potential like this axe, that means that if I get another exalted axe, it can steal, this unique will steal 2 of the affixes from the Exalted Axe. So the higher the legendary potential you have, the more stats you will steal and put onto your item and make your item much, much stronger. So you're going to want to try and find items that have more legendary potential. As you go into the late game, you will find more items that have that. And as you're exploring your quest echoes here, not your quest echoes, just your echoes here, your monoliths, you will also be able to hunt for items that might actually be able to end up helping you out. So for example, if we go down here, we've got Exalted staves here. So if I was doing a build that involved a staff, then I would want to go find nodes that are like this, get a bunch of Exalted staves, hope to get some really incredible stats that I want for my build, and then I'm going to combo these Exalted staves with a unique staff that I have, and that's going to result in a really, really good legendary item. Again, there's also uniques that are on here. I don't know if I have one right now, but they're a different color. And if you find uniques that you're looking for, you can smash those together with your Exalted items. That is really what happens in the end game in terms of crafting. This is like the upper deck, the ceiling of what you can do with crafting in this game. You're still just going to be taking all of your items that you have in the late game, your especially your Exalted items, and you're going to be throwing them in, and you're going to continue to craft these things and make them bigger and better. I can do melee fire damage there. We're going to try it again. There we go. And you can keep doing that over and over and over again. But the real end game crafting is about the uniques and the Exalteds getting smushed together and making some really incredible legendary items for your build. That's what it's really all about. So that is a really, really cool part of the end game. Again, it continues to make so many of the items in the game relevant, right? If you go to your stash, you're going to probably want to make sure you save every single item that has legendary potential, because you might be able to use it in another build. Your stash is shared amongst all your characters. So this axe is not good for my character right here, but it might be good for another character that I want to make. And then I'm going to have an axe that's like ready to go when I want to make my legendary item. So very, very cool. You can get these Temporal Sanctum keys just from drops from enemies, or again from the actual Echo Net. Here you can see this has an arena key, but there's other ways that you can get keys as well just from drop. I believe it's only actually drops from enemies that are going to get you the keys to run this dungeon to be able to make the legendary crafts that you want. So that is an overview, guys, of crafting in general and what it sort of entails. You've got your prefixes, which are really powerful offensive stats you can put on your gear. You got your suffixes, which are more defensive. You can have 4 on an item, but unique items have more. And when you combine a unique plus an Exalted together to make a legendary, that's going to have all kinds of stats. It can have up to 7 or 8, I think, depending on what's going on with the legendary potential. Remember, you've got your forging potential that you need to be aware of. Make sure that you are aware of how much you have left, how much you can use, what it's going to cost. You can use glyphs to make the crafts cost basically nothing, or you can use a glyph to randomly change an affix into something else. If you find an item that's almost perfect but not quite, you can try and switch up that last affix that isn't quite perfect. You can use glyphs to shatter pieces of gear that you tried crafting on, but maybe you bricked it and you want to recoup some of the cost. Or if you find an item out in the open world that has some really, really good stats on it that you want, like plus to skills, for example. If you just find an item on the ground that has +2 to a skill, you should probably shatter that item, and you'll get shards that have plus to the skill that you can put on, again, another piece of gear later. So this system is incredibly flexible. It is something you can do right from the get-go in the early game. It's important to start crafting early into mid-game, and into the late game, you're going to start crafting on these Exalted items, and you're going to start making legendary items, and you're going to make your build so much more powerful by making sure that you are taking control of the gear and crafting specifically what you want on it. This is, in my opinion, this is the best crafting system that exists. I know that late game Path of Exile crafting is really, really cool, and I understand all that with the Exalted and Divines and annulling something and putting all the cool things. I understand all that, but this system is very approachable. It's very easy to understand, and it carries itself forward into the late game in a really powerful way. So I think if you guys are going to be playing Last Epoch, if you're starting on the 21st, make sure that you are crafting. Pick up all those shards, make sure you're jumping in and making your character much, much stronger. It's going to make your time leveling in the campaign way easier, way faster, much more fun. You're really going to enjoy yourself if you engage with the crafting system in this game. That's all for the video, guys. Thank you so much again for watching. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. I'm going to be covering a lot of Path of Exile stuff in the near future because I'm really excited about this game, and I'm going to be doing more videos on this as well, so stay tuned for those. Thank you so much again for watching. Love you all. I will see you in the next one.